worshiping together. We're going to continue. Everybody knows this song, okay? So sing out. Let's go. We know we're all here for Jesus, and that's what this next song is going to talk about. We're here for Him. And I pray Fill our hearts.
at a time. I'm going to step on some toes this morning. If I took a survey in this audience and asked you how many meals do you eat a day, I dare say we would probably have some who eat twice a day. Most of us probably 3 times a day, and some 4 or 5 times a day. I'm not judging. That's okay. I probably like to eat multiple times a day as well. But why? So you eat a lot, and I bet then if I asked the next question, the answer would be this way. If I asked you, do you ever miss any of those meals, you would say very few. Very few. You're religiously at that table when the fried chicken's put on there, or scrambled eggs, or whatever it is. Gene agrees with it. Why do you do that? Because you hunger. You have to have fuel for your body to sustain life. Well, that's a physical thing. Switch gears with me for a second to what we're about to do, and that's to take the Lord's Supper. That's a meal with no nutritional value whatsoever. I can guarantee you that grape juice and crackers have no taste or nutritive value, but they mean a lot to us spiritually. Gathering around this table, eating together, remembering what the Lord did for us when He sent His Son down the cross some 2,000 years ago, means a tremendous amount to us, more so than any food can do. It means more to us than any food can mean to us in our earthly life. Yet we're not regularly here to partake together. I look out in this audience and I see a lot of holes. Now, I know there are things that come up from time to time, ball games, vacations, other things happen. That's fine. It's understood. But there are a lot of people that sit around and decide every Sunday morning, well, am I going to church or am I going to go get on the boat? Well, the boat wins out and I'm going to go do that. Or I'm going to go do something else. Being around this table every Lord's Day morning needs to be your number one priority. We'll take our example from the New Testament, folks. We're a New Testament church. In the book of Acts and other places, we see references to the gathering of the Lord's people, Christians together on the first day of the week to do just what we're about to do, and among other things. We've forgotten about that. We get too comfortable today talking about all the good things and what, being a church member is a great thing and being a Christian is great. There are some requirements come along with it, namely obeying Him, doing what He wants us to do, and seems to want us to gather around this table on a fairly regular basis to do what? To remember what He did for us. If we're not doing that, we're forgetting. And what are we showing the rest of the world when we forget and we don't do that? That it's not very important. I'm stopping now, stepping on your toes, and look, you're the choir this morning. You're here. You need to go out and find those pews that are beside you that aren't here this morning and tell them what I said. If you have a problem with it, tell them to come see me. But I think it's important enough that we need to say it. We need to be here as often as we can to enjoy the benefits of being around each other, to remember the Lord's death, to hear Jason preach a good sermon, to worship together, all these things. Let's not forsake those for what the world has to offer and the fun that it has. Let's pray. Lord, we are grateful for all that you give us, especially for this time now of remembrance. The fact that you, in your infinite wisdom, set aside a way for us to remember your Son's death, the greatest gift ever given to mankind, by simply gathering around the table and communing together is a great thing. And Lord, we know that people get busy and lives take us in different directions. We understand that. But if our goal is to be in church once a month and then to do what we want to the other 3 or 4 Sundays that month, it just seems like that's not what you want us to do, Lord. And I just think that we need to reemphasize and remember the reason that you set this aside, and that again is to celebrate your Son Jesus and what He did for us. If we didn't have that, we'd have nothing. We need to live our lives, and we need to remember the importance of these things to come together to show our love for you and what you did for us. Help us to remember that, Lord. Help us now as we pushing out aside from our minds the things and cares of this world and focusing on that great gift and just remember the love that you showed for us, a love that we can't possibly emulate. It's so deep and so powerful. But Lord, we try with our best and with every fiber in our being to show you that love through our worship. Help us to do that well this morning. Remember you in Jesus' name.
Why
pray that no heroes will ever have to die for us again. They chose to reject the fashionable skepticism of their time. They chose to believe and answer the call of duty. They stood for something. And we owe them something. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. As for the enemies of freedom, those who are potential adversaries, they will be reminded that peace is the highest aspiration of the American people. We will negotiate for it, sacrifice for it. We will not surrender for it now or ever. We must realize that no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. It is a weapon that we as Americans do have. With God's help, we can and will resolve the problems which now confront us. And after all, why shouldn't we believe that? We are Americans. At the grave of a hero, we end not with sorrow at the inevitable loss, but with the contagion of his courage, and with a kind of desperate joy, we go back to the fight.
President Reagan spoke those words in 1986, May 26th of 1986, in fact, and those words still ring true to this day. Tomorrow, as a nation, we are going to be celebrating Memorial Day, and when you think of a celebration, there's one thing that does not come to mind, but we are able to have those kinds of days and the freedom that we have here this morning simply because of those who gave their lives, who sacrificed everything so that we could have that opportunity just to simply be in this room together this morning. And so I want to thank you if you are here and you served. I want to thank you if you have loved ones who served and have passed away serving our nation. I certainly want to thank you for that, the price that was paid for us to enjoy the freedoms that we are still enjoying here in the year 2017. So thank you very much. This morning, we're going to be looking, the title of the sermon is going to be up there in a second, and I want us to just concentrate and to have this on our minds as to why the sacrifice is something, and why sacrifice is something we should take seriously. Why Memorial Day is something we as Christians we should take seriously as well. Now, there was a mother, when we think about sacrifice, we can think of a lot of things. But there was a mother, she was making breakfast for her young boys. Ryan was 5 years old and Kevin was 3 years old. And they began to argue over who was going to get the first pancake. You probably have had this happen in your own household when breakfast is being made, lunch, supper, or whatever the case may be. Kids started arguing over who's going to get the first plate. That was the case here. And the mother looked at this as an opportunity to teach them a lesson about sacrifice and putting others before yourself. And she simply said, boys, if Jesus was here, he would let his brother have the first pancake. Well, Ryan turned to his younger brother and said, okay, today you be Jesus. Sacrifice is something that many of us, we don't want to do, something that we don't understand. And certainly these boys at that young age, they didn't understand. But at the age that I am, of 44, maybe some of you are younger than me, some of you are older than me, sometimes we still don't understand what sacrifice means. And this morning, very, very quickly, and I think this is something that is just going to be something that we can apply to our lives, a very practical sermon this morning, that we can take and just as we leave here, and as we are entering into the activities that may be going on today, the things that are going to take place tomorrow. I know downtown Washington on the waterfront, they're going to have something tomorrow evening from 5 until 9 p.m. If you can attend, I would encourage you to do that. Just celebrating Memorial Day. Maybe you're going to be getting with friends and family tomorrow with a cookout and all those kinds of things. But I would encourage you, as you take part in those festivities, you take part in those different extracurricular activities, just remember why you're able to have that day off from work tomorrow, and what it really means, and what it really means to us as followers of the Lord. So let's look and let's see why we should take sacrifice seriously. Why we should take Memorial Day very seriously in our Christian walk. The first reason, very simply, is we should, as Christians, we should have an attitude of gratitude. You've heard that before. There have been many messages that have been preached, many lessons that have been taught, with this being a main point. That we as Christians, we should have an attitude of gratitude. We are commanded in God's Word to rejoice in all things. And Philippians chapter 4, verse 4 just says that. It says, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. We had a time of rejoicing this past Thursday night here at the school here at Unity Christian Academy. June 10th, upcoming here in a week or two. Public schools, South Side, North Side, all those schools, Washington, and at least in Beaufort County, it's going to be a day of rejoicing because there are going to be some young people who are going to graduate that day. There are going to be some people that are walking across the stage. Parents are going to think, I never thought this day would happen. Never thought this day would come. It's going to be a day of rejoicing. Now, we as Christians, because of the sacrifice that God made through His Son Jesus, we should have an attitude of gratitude each and every day of our lives. And we are commanded, as the Apostle Paul told the church here at Philippi, you need to understand, you need to rejoice in the Lord always. And then he goes on, he says, I want to say it again. He wanted to make a point to them. You need to rejoice. You need to rejoice. And if the church at Philippi was doing such a great job of holding on to that rejoicing attitude and having that attitude of gratitude, I don't think the Apostle Paul would have made this point to them. If they were doing such a great job of understanding of what the Lord had done through His Son Jesus for them, he wouldn't have had to make this point. And I think the same is true to us at the church here at Hall Branch. I think some days we just simply forget how blessed of a people we are because of what the Lord has done for us. We think about the things that are going on in our lives, all the negative things that we might see that is going on around us. And certainly this week in the world, and we have seen the negative things that can take place and the horrific acts that have taken place in the world in which we live. But we have so much for which to be thankful for. And many of our blessings come from just simply living in this great nation. It was a blessing that I was born in the United States of America. It was a blessing. And I need to rejoice and thank the Lord for that all the time. And though America is not perfect, we see it all around us, we have more than to celebrate than we have to be disgruntled about. All the things that are going on in our life. Now, this morning, I woke up and I drove over to Mom and Dad's house and I parked and I was going to do my daily run. And this past week, I have started to run the golf course, the golf cart track, or roads of the golf course there at Cypress Landing. And early in the morning, you come across some deer who are on the golf course and those kinds of things. And I was thinking this morning on the drive over there, what am I going to come across today? Well, I was crossing a little bridge there, and on the other side of the bridge, I saw 3 geese. 3 geese sitting there. And they were about, 3 foot off of the golf cart path there. As I started getting closer, I noticed they all stood up. And they turned to me. And then as I started getting closer and closer and closer, those heads started going down. And they started looking at me. And their beaks started opening up. and there's tongues started coming out of their mouths there. And I thought, hey, this is not good. And as I started running, and as I got right beside them, all three of them at the same time turned and started chasing me. And so here I am, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I am literally hollering as these geese are coming after me. And my pace went from 7:30-minute miles to about a 5-minute mile all at once. All at once, simply because something was chasing me. I was scared to death. And it caused me to have a respect for a bird that I had never had that much respect for in my life. And I think sometimes in our lives, just as it caused that traumatic situation for at least me this morning to realize the respect that I need to have for that little bird, I think sometimes in our life things happen that need to happen to wake us up in understanding the respect that we need to have for those who have paid the price. The respect that we need to have for God who have paid the price through His own Son, so that we can enjoy the freedoms that we have as a Christian. Because Jesus died for us to have freedom. What Satan wants us to do is to confuse that and understand, you know what? Jesus doesn't want you to have all this freedom. You can't do all these kinds of things. But what Satan wants us to have is a mindset of slavery. What Satan wants us to have is a mindset of bondage, where we cannot get free. What Jesus has done is He has separated us from the bondage of sin so that we can have that freedom. We should have an attitude of gratitude. Secondly, this morning, we should understand the issue and what sacrifice is better than anyone else. We as Christians should understand what sacrifice is all about better than anyone else in this world. See, Christianity is the one true faith. It's the one true faith. It is the only belief system where God dies for the sins of others. It's the only one. Christ's death on the cross appeased the wrath of God. There is no other religion in this world that teaches that. Buddha did not die for his followers. Muhammad did not die for his followers so that their sins would be forgiven. See, what God did in Jesus' death, it provided forgiveness to a fallen people. That is you, that is me. It provides that forgiveness for us on an everyday basis. And the sacrificial death of Christ, it was bloody, it was horrendous, but it was totally, at the same time, it was self-giving. It was giving of Himself. Though the deaths of the worlds in no way compared to the death of Christ, we should have a humbling appreciation for those who gave their lives for our country. We should. And the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice, they should never, ever be forgotten. Never. But we should understand the issue of sacrifice better than anyone because we understand what God did through His Son Jesus. We understand the price that was paid. We understand the grand place of heaven that Jesus left to come and to walk this earth and to die on the cross for you and for me. We should understand more than anyone else what sacrifice is all about. Now, we may not want to sacrifice and let our brother or sister get that first pancake. But there are things that we need to understand. It goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond who's going to get the first plate that comes off the stove. It goes beyond all of those things. It goes to us understanding the issue of sacrifice and what that truly meant. What it truly meant for God to give of His only Son so that you and so that we could live forever. What a sacrifice that was. And so when we get to Memorial Day, and we see all the things that are going on, and all the activities that are going on where people remember those fallen soldiers, we should understand it, and we should respect it more than anyone else in this world. Anyone else in this great land that we live in. Number 3, This is sometimes we forget because of all the things that are going on around us. But the heart of our nation is God-centered. The heart of our nation is God-centered. We see some crazy things that are happening in the great country in which we live in. We see some things that are going on in the country in which we live in that go totally against God's Word. But we need to remember, as followers of the Lord, and in the land in which we live in, that this country is God-centered. See, the heartbeat of our founding nation, it was God-centered. And it's impossible to look at any number of our founding documents. It's impossible to look at those things and to believe otherwise. We are truly one nation under God. One nation under God. And when you look back and you go through all those history textbooks that we went through in school, when you look back and you look at all in the history and the things that are going on, in particular in this time of year that you see on National Geographic Channel and the History Channel and those kinds of things, and they show us exactly what went on for us to have the freedoms that we have. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that those young people would sign up for something, knowing, you know what, I may not come out on the other side, but I know what is truly important. See, God could have sat up there in heaven and said, you know what, I know this world is split. I know this world is going one way, but there is no way that I'm going to send my son to die. I thank him that he didn't have that attitude. I thank him that he didn't have that mindset. And what it should cause for us is for us to be serious about the sacrifice that was paid for us. Be serious about the sacrifices that were paid by Jesus and the sacrifices that were paid for others so that we can have those freedoms to worship him in the way that we do as well. And the last thing this morning, the reason we should take sacrifice seriously is we are called to be on mission where we are. We are called to be on mission where we are. When you sign up to go into the military, the first place that they're going to send you, I understand, is a boot camp. When they send you to that boot camp, the reason being is they want you to be in the best physical and mental shape that you possibly can be in. You know, they're going to ask you to do things. You're going to be getting up at certain times where you never did before. You're going to be going to bed at times that you never thought you would. You're going to be eating things that at times you never thought that you would. And all of those things simply so that you can be in the best physical shape that you possibly could be in. They are getting you ready for the mission that is going to be at hand. For the mission that you are going to be on, which is to defend the country in which we live in and that you live in. They want you to be in the best possible mental and physical shape that you can because you are going to be on mission. The same is true for us as Christians. God wants us to be in the best shape we possibly can be. And how does that happen? It happens by us reading. It happens by us praying. It happens by us being around other Christians. And it's just simply, and I'm just piggybacking this morning off of what Rod told us just a few minutes earlier. It is important for us to take the first day of the week very seriously. It is a time of prayer. It is a day of prayer, certainly. It is a day where we rejoice, we sing songs. It is a day where we commune around the Lord's table. It is a day where we give back of our tithes and offerings. And we need to understand the mission that is at place. See, the missional message we have been given is to make disciples from our backyards to the nations on the other side of the globe. Let's look here at Acts chapter 1, verse 8. And this was a verse that we went over a few weeks ago, every week for about 6 weeks as we're going through our Life on Mission series. And here's what that passage says again. I want us to remind ourselves of it. It says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, and in all Judea and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth." That is our mission. It has not changed. It will not change. It's not going to change until the day that the Lord returns. And that is our mission each and every day. And we need to be in the best shape we possibly can be when it comes to our Christian walk. Because that is our mission. It doesn't matter if you live in Washington Park. It doesn't matter if you live in Washington, Edward, Aurora, Pinetown, Chocowinity, Greenville, wherever it is that you live. That is your mission field. That's it. Your place of work is your mission field. The school in which you attend, that is your mission field. Maybe your own home is your mission field. Your family is your mission field. The reunion that you're going to be going to this summer, and you see all those crazy relatives, that is your mission field. That's it. That's what God wants us to be. We cannot reach out to those we do not first love. It's not going to happen. And America is our home and it's our mission field. And we therefore must love this place and her people if we are going to be able to reach out to them and love and share the message of Jesus. The United States of America is a great place to live. But we see some things that are happening to get us to forget that this nation was started as God-centered. Some things that forget, you know what, it's really not that important, Memorial Day. It's not that big of a deal. Those are lessons that are being taught today. Those are thoughts that are being relayed today in the country in which we live. And we as Christians, Hall Branch Church of Christ, we need to understand far greater than anyone what sacrifice is all about. Those young men, those young women, they paid the ultimate sacrifice that I could stand up here in front of you this morning. Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice of death so that you and I would have the opportunity, not for life here on earth, for freedom. Yes, it did. But let's go a step further so that we can have freedom for eternity with Him in heaven. So the question that we need to ask ourselves, the question that we need to understand, and the question that only you can answer for yourself is this. Have you taken Jesus' sacrifice seriously? Have you taken it seriously? Or maybe you wake up one day and you're doing your own thing. It doesn't really matter what God thinks. As long as I think it's right, as long as I think it's okay, that's all that matters. That's a teaching and that's a mindset that is being taught today in the world in which we live. Whatever is fine for you, you go on and do it. You go ahead and live that way because it's not going to hurt anyone else. That goes against God's word. And that's not taking Jesus' sacrifice seriously. We wake up each and every day doing our own thing. It's not taking Jesus' sacrifice seriously. We think, you know what, we're going to church this morning, so I'm going to get God's up there with that big roll book, checking me off. I went to church today, I'm going to be just fine. And you've heard it all said before, and you've heard the saying before. Going to church no more makes you a Christian than standing in the garage makes you a car. You've heard it before. It matters what happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not just on Sunday morning. Do you take Jesus' sacrifice seriously? Oh, I'm better than that person. They're struggling with this sin. Man, I praise the Lord. I don't struggle with that sin. I just struggle with this little sin over here. It's not as great as that person's sin. I'm glad I'm not that person. I wore my suit to church today. I'm better than that guy that wore shorts. Sometimes that's the mindset that we have. And we as Christians, we've got to get serious. We've got to get serious in understanding what the sacrifice was all about. And what it meant for God to send His Son Jesus to this earth. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to wake up. I was joking with Jalen the other day. He got one of those spinning things. What do you call them things that everybody and their mother has now? Yeah, fidget spinners. Craziest thing in the world. He brought that home the other day, and I said, what'd you get, a Happy Meal toy? It was the day before the preschool was graduating from here. I said, what, you graduating from preschool tomorrow? Just joking with him. He brought that thing home. But I think sometimes we as adults, we still struggle. We're still playing games too. I said, Jalen, you're 16 years old. Why do you need one of them spinners? You're 16 years old. But I think sometimes me at 44, I still play games. I still play games when I don't understand the urgency. The urgency. And when you have a healthy fear of the Lord, you will understand the urgency. I had a healthy fear of those geese this morning at 6 o'clock. And it caused me to do what I needed to do, and that is run away. But our healthy fear of the Lord should not cause us to run away from Him. It should cause us to run to Him. And we get that mixed up. There are some of you in this room, and you're running away from Him. There are some of you in this room, and you are so far away from Him, when you turn around, you can barely see Him. He's way off in the distance. It's time to get back right. There are some of you who have started down that road. It's time to turn around. There are some of you who have never made that commitment before. You have never been baptized. What that baptism represents is it represents a death, burial, and resurrection. There are some people who teach you know what, you don't need to be baptized. And my argument with that would be, have you ever buried anything that was alive? No, you haven't. It's a burial and a resurrection to a new walk. If you need to make that decision this morning, let's do it. Let's stop playing games. Let's take Jesus' sacrifice seriously. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for the promise that you have given us through your Son, Jesus. But that promise to God is on your behalf. Because you know us. We make decisions to follow you, and then a week later, month, year, 10 years, whatever the case may be, we decide to go on and do our own thing. But it's because of your Son that we had the opportunity for forgiveness. And you want us to be back. And that story of that prodigal son, dear Lord, taught that lesson in such a great way. Because many of us, all of us in this room, at some point, we have been that prodigal son. We have been living that life, doing our own thing. Maybe not in that detail, but we've been doing our own thing. And when we do, that is nothing more than living in opposite of what you would have us to do. And so, dear Lord, as we enter into our time of invitation, a time where individually, all of us have been thinking about our lives and where they are, is it where it should be? Do we take your Son's sacrifice seriously? I pray that they will. I pray that we will. Dear Lord, there's a decision that needs to be made. Let's make it. Let's stop playing games. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Let's stand.
Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest. Without you,
Each and every day. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention before we close in a word of prayer. Next Sunday, June 4th, we're going to be recognizing those who are graduating high school. So I encourage you to be here. And we're going to have a covered dish meal afterwards in the Family Life Center after our service next Sunday as well. And then coming up June 24th through the 28th, the town of Chocowinity is going to be hosting the Babe Ruth North Carolina State Girls Softball Tournament. So those 5 days, there are going to be 40 teams to start with, not 40 teams at the end, but 40 teams to start with who are going to be here in the little town of Chocowinity. There's going to be more people on those teams that live in the town of Chocowinity here for those 5 days. And so we as the church, we're going to be manning the concession stand out at the rec park. The only thing warm that we're going to be serving is nachos, and then also pizza, but that's one of those things that are going to be brought in. It's just basically chips, candy bars, popcorn, those kinds of things. And so I have some sign-up sheets at the connector that you can sign up to work. They are we need 6 people in the concession stand, and you're signing up for a 3-hour spot. That's it. So over those 5 days, if you can sacrifice 3 hours of your time to come out there and to help out, to be to work in there, just to share, hopefully the light of Jesus through your service there, I want to encourage you to do that. So go back there to the connector before you leave here today and sign up to work a slot there at the Chocowinity Rec Park. June 24th, that's a Saturday through Wednesday the 28th. So just be aware of that. Hope you grab a bulletin. There's lots of things that are going on there. Look at those things and then go to the website, hallbranchchurch.com. All the activities are in there and all the details of those things as well. Have a great week. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. And thank you, Jamie. I almost forgot, June 10th. June 10th, we're going to be having a work day out here. We're going to be tackling some things outside. We're going to work from 7 in the morning. That's right, 7 in the morning until noon. I promise you, we're going to be gone at noon. Everything that's not done at noon, we are dropping our shovels, rakes, whatever it is, right there in that spot, and we're leaving. All right? But 7 o'clock in the morning, June 10th until noon, there's going to be biscuits here for breakfast that morning as well. So if you can come out and help out for just maybe a couple of hours or how long, we're going to be working on some things outside. But I want to encourage you to do that as well. So the lives of important dates in June. June 4th, next Sunday, covered dish meal honoring the graduates. June 10th, work day. That's a Saturday morning. And then the 24th through the 28th of this month, working at the rec field at the concession stand for that softball tournament. So lots of ways to get involved in service. Jeff, would you mind closing in a word of prayer this morning?
Father God, we're just so thankful once again just for this day, for this opportunity to come here this morning, Father, to praise you through song, to praise you, Father, just by being here and hear your word brought to us by Jason. We thank you so much for him and just his willingness to courageously speak your word, Father. We just pray that we'll take this lesson today out with us when we leave, and it'll go with us throughout the work week. Father, we just pray at this time that you will be with each and every one of us. Help us to be that light in this dark world.